The Nile stretches about 7,000 kilometers through several countries. Here in Egypt, we've traveled over about 1,000 kilometers from Aswan in the south all the way up to Ras Al Bar, where we are now. And that's also where the Nile River meets the Mediterranean.
Yeah, we've been to Aswan, where there's the dam. It's very important for Egypt to control the flooding of water. We've been to Luxor, the city with the most number of monuments in the world in one area, and the beautiful temples. And we've also seen how the villagers live off the Nile, all the way to Cairo, and now we're at Ras Al Bar. What's your personal highlight of this trip?
There's so many things that stand out, but one thing I'll always remember is just simply the beauty of the Nile, especially at sunset. And one of the most ideal ways to see that was on a felucca. And, we also had a very interesting boatman with us, Adli. So the sunset combined with his drumming on traditional drums and just the serenity of where we were is something I'll take away with me. What did you find most memorable?
For me, it was the race. It was new for me, something I didn't try before, but it was important to highlight the Nile as a form of transportation. So we had a race between a car, our colleague Adil and me in a boat, and we took two positions and see which is faster. And it was very interesting, and obviously the boat won. It gives us an idea that the Nile can be another form of transportation that would help.
One of the most interesting things was to meet people along the way. For example, in Aswan, we spoke to people living in a Nubian village, how they were at one point moved from one area to another, and just how they've managed to go along with all those changes and still flourish, even though a smaller community, but they managed to still flourish in that area.
And I'm sure throughout the few days, you probably sensed how important the Nile is for Egyptians. It's not just another river. It's the way of life. It's where everyone lives across the Nile throughout the whole country. The rest of the country is just a desert. So the Nile is not just water for Egypt. It's much more than that.
It certainly is. We were also in Luxor, where we spent the day with a family who's been making bricks for generations. And very many of the practices that are done throughout the Nile are things that have been done for thousands of years. For example, making bricks in the very same way they were made perhaps 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, using soil from the banks of the Nile, water from the Nile as well, creating mud, and just all those different elements that come together from the environment to continue life.
What was more interesting for me as an Egyptian is to speak with the officials here and about how are we going to preserve the Nile. It's a way of life, and we've seen the pollution. We've seen how many people also throw trash and waste on the Nile, which was a bit sad to see.
One of the things I was most envious of was your hot air balloon ride that gave you the chance to have this aerial view over the Nile River, and also the civilization that grew around it all these years, as far back as the pharaohs, the Valley of the Kings. What was that like?
It was an amazing view, seeing everything from the top. For me, it was something new and something beautiful to see the monuments from up there, the Nile from up there, the history. You're just flowing above history that's below you. And beside the history, you see the people living there. The future beside the past together, all in one area. It was amazing.
And then once we'd moved up to Cairo, you also then continue to see its role in terms of tourism. There's this constant vibe and buzz around the Nile, also being a place of entertainment.
We call it the city that never sleeps, one of those cities that stay up all night. Egyptians' life entertainment begins late at night. And it's all on the Nile as well. So the entertainment, to have a good time, you go and spend the night out on the Nile. So it's not just about food, drinking from the Nile, not just about agriculture, fishing, tourism. So it's just part of every moment of an Egyptian's life. Farming is one of the most important aspects of the Egyptian economy and community. For you, you've met farmers, you've been to farms, you've been to people who live off agriculture and crops. Tell me more about how you felt when you met these people and what they were doing.
We visited an island not far from Cairo. The proximity to the capital is quite interesting because, of course, farmers then would want to send their produce to the capital where it's in demand. We spoke to a family there who'd been on this island for at least 3 generations. They were farming everything from bananas to roses, as well as making honey. And this is how that island got its name, the island of honey making. Yassir, it's been quite an experience just seeing how the river stretches and all the stops along the way. And it has been an adventure.
I hope you enjoyed it here.
Thoroughly.